Everyone, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to today's session. I can see it's a very hot, sunny afternoon, but you have made the time to be here today. We don't take that for granted. My name is Rebecca Muhindi, but for the purposes of this session, feel free to refer to me as Rebecca. I am a certified mediator with a 95% success rate. I have received 4 awards recognizing me as a good mediator, and I've been mediating for the last 10 years. I would love to thank you for choosing us to take you through this session, and I want to commend you. You look great today, and I'll invite my co-mediator to introduce herself.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Good afternoon. Welcome to Nyayo Mediation Center. Indeed, it's an honor to have you here. We've been speaking via email, but finally we get to see you face to face. I'm really excited. My name is Miss Esther Mwangangi, but for the purpose of this session, you can call me Esther. I'm also a certified commercial mediator, and I've been working with Rebecca for quite some time. Therefore, you can be rest assured that you're indeed in safe and capable hands. At this juncture, I feel like it will be paramount for you to introduce yourselves. Kindly tell us your name, the role in which you play this mediation session, and finally confirm whether you have authority to settle. If it's agreeable with the parties, we can start with the requesting party, then proceed to the responding party. Is that agreeable? Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Paul Cavendish. Feel free to refer to me as Paul throughout this mediation session. I am the Chief Executive Officer of GreenHydro PLC, and I'd like to confirm at this point that I do have the full authority to settle in today's mediation session. And maybe just to point it out, English is not the first language for my counsel and I, and therefore if anyone needs any form of clarification whatsoever during the mediation session, feel free to ask for the same. Seeing that I'm not alone, I will let my veteran counsel introduce himself. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph Langweiler, and for the purposes of this mediation session, please feel free to refer to me as Joseph. I am an advocate of the court, and I am the in-house counsel for GreenHydro. I'm looking forward to an amazing session.
Thank you very much, Paul and Joseph. We can hear from the responding party.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mr. Henry Lacroix, the CEO of Equatoriana RenPower. For the purposes of this mediation, I would like to be referred to as Mr. Henry. I'd also like to confirm that I do have authority to settle today. And with me here is our company's counsel. I'd also give him the opportunity to introduce himself.
Thank you for that, Lacroix. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julia Fastrack, but for the purposes of this mediation session, you can refer to me as Julia or Clara. I'm the counsel for Equatoriana RenPower PLC, led by our very able CEO, Lacroix. My client and I are looking forward to a really productive mediation session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul, Mr. Joseph, Mr. Henry, and Miss Julia for that brief introduction. Now I'm sure we know who is who in the house. We have been talking about mediation, and I'm sure someone might be wondering what is mediation. First, I would love to ask, have you been to a mediation session before?
This is my first mediation session.
What about you?
I have been to a mediation session before.
Okay, that's all right. Mr. Henry, not to worry. We will explain how the process runs. So mediation is a process whereby 2 parties, in this case, Mr. Paul and Mr. Henry, submit their dispute before a neutral third person. And in this case, that will be us, Ms. Mwangangi and myself, where the third neutral person helps them resolve their dispute by facilitating the process. This is a very confidential process, as we shall later on explain. And I'd also love to give you what our role as the mediator is. Our role here is purely to facilitate the process. We're not here to impose any solutions on you or any decisions on you. We're here to guide you through the session and to forge a way that we reach a resolution that is amendable to both parties. We're not here to judge anyone. If we wanted to judge, we would have tried being reality TV host, but no, we are mediators. We're here to lead you through the session. I'll invite Ms. Mwangangi to take us through the principles.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Now, a strong house usually has a foundation, and I liken mediation to a strong house. Therefore, the very core and fundamental principles that are in mediation that are not in arbitration or litigation. So the first thing is that mediation is a party-oriented process. This simply means that the decisions that will be coming from this mediation table will be coming from you. As Rebecca has said, we're not here to impose or give you any solutions. And this therefore gives you the ability to self-determine where you're going. Secondly, this is a neutral and impartial process. This simply means that each party is accrued with equal opportunities to advance their interests. And we are an impartial party, therefore we don't have any conflict of interest. Therefore, you can be rest assured that indeed you're at the right place. Yeah. Thirdly, this is a voluntary process. I am well aware that you had signed the agreement to mediate during our pre-mediation sessions, and for that I commend you. Thank you so much. Fourthly, this is a very confidential process. This simply means that whatever will be discussed in this mediation table will not be privy to any third party unless by your express consent. With me here is a confidentiality clause. This simply is to reinforce that indeed this is a confidential process. Just take time, go through it, and then you can sign for the purposes of confidentiality. You'll see my co-mediator and I jotting down some notes during the process. Be rest assured that these notes will be discarded to protect your confidentiality. The gadgets also are here not for recording, but just for timekeeping purposes, yeah? Thank you. So as you look through that confidentiality clause, do you need maybe a minute? Shall I pause so that you can look at it? Okay. So yes, so mediation also has very many benefits, and thank you. Oh, thank you. Mediation has many benefits. So mediation is a cost-effective process as compared to litigation, and it's also a time-efficient process, and compared to court processes, which the magistrate might have, take your matter for a very long time. Therefore, at least here you're assured that your time will be the time will be of essence. Yes. So maybe at this juncture, do you have any clarification or questions regarding what I have stated? This is regards to the principles. Maybe you have a question on confidentiality that you would like to know.
We are good at the moment, Esther.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're also comfortable.
Okay, thank you so much, Joy.
So I will take us through the process, how we shall run the process, what stages we are going to have through the session. So we will have the opening statement. You will both get an opportunity to tell us briefly your side of the story, how things went down, and how we ended up here. That session will take a total of 6 minutes, and then we'll have the agenda setting. We will have noted down your various interests, and we'll identify the common ones, and then we'll list them down so that we can have a procedural way in which we undertake today's sessions. After that, we shall have the exploration stage. In the exploration stage, we get to delve into the specific issues, and it's a party-oriented process, as we have been told. You will get the opportunity to generate solutions, to think, this is purely in your hands, to think of possible solutions that you can have to the problem at hand. And during the exploration stage, if you hit a snag, if you have a little bit of a problem, you are allowed to have a private meeting with us known as a caucus. You can call for a private caucus with the mediators so that you can further elaborate to us what is the problem, and in case you're not being heard by the other party, or you feel like we've hit a little bit of a snag. And that does not speak to our impartiality, but rather just to get to understand each party at a better level. We'll then have the closing statements. So after we have deliberated on the issues, and hopefully we have arrived at various solutions, we'll have the closing statement, you'll get to tell us what you think of the session, how you think we have performed. You know, we are all humans, and we are prone to errors, so you'll give us your feedback then. I'll be looking forward to it. And then we'll sign the agreement, which will be binding. This is because it will be a solution that has been generated by yourselves, and that means that both parties shall be comfortable with the same. So we shall sign the agreement, which shall be binding on your side. And in any case we do not reach any solution, worry not, we can always reschedule the meeting. You can choose a place and time of your own choice so that we can continue with the session, and I believe we shall make progress. I would like to encourage us to be free during the session. Just be relaxed. This is like a playing field, but you know, we have ground rules here and there. Feel free to address us. Feel free to tell us in case of any problem. You want to take a minute, you want to have a moment with your counsel, you want to use the washroom, feel free. Just think of us as a GPS that asks really nice questions. So I'll invite Mwangangi here to give us the ground rules.
Thank you so much. Now you know two people cannot work together unless they agree. In this case, two parties cannot work together unless they agree. So a few ground rules just to make sure that this process is more seamless is I encourage the parties to participate, or rather participate in active listening rather. So do not interrupt each other. Kindly practice turn taking. Do not speak out of turn unless you want to, you know, it's your turn. And if you need time to consult with your client or counsel, as she said, just ask for permission. 30 seconds are in order. Now, the restrooms are just outside when you get outside the door on your immediate right. So whenever you need even to, emotions are high and you need to simmer down, just ask for a break, yes? Do you or would you like to add any more ground rules?
I wouldn't want to add any other ground rules at this point, but maybe a clarification. Rebecca, you mentioned on the caucus, I didn't really get the timelines that have been set apart for the caucuses.
So sorry for that. The caucus takes a maximum of 5 minutes for each party, and the caucus is still very confidential. We shall not reveal any information you give us during the caucus to the other party unless you give us express authority to do so. I hope that answers you.
It does, thank you.
Perhaps I'd also like to seek clarification, since this is my first mediation session. Will you, as the mediators, be able to help us into achieving possible solutions to our problems today?
Thank you very much for that question. So our role here today is simply to facilitate. We'll not give you any solutions. We'll just guide you the way a GPS guides you. You're the one who inputs the destination, and then the GPS guides you. Is that in order? Maybe one more ground rule, please switch off your phones to avoid interruptions, yes? At this juncture, now that we understand what mediation is and what is expected of us, I want to invite the parties to make their opening statement. Kindly, okay, thank you. My co-mediator here is reminding me that please do not confess to any criminal liabilities, you know, because that would then force us to confess against you, yes? So at this juncture, I would like to invite the parties to make their opening statements. Kindly give us your perspective, you know, how do you understand this dispute? And maybe what are your objectives? What do you seek to gain out of this mediation table, yeah? You know, Chimamanda says that indeed, you have to listen to both sides of the story in order to get the bigger picture. And at this juncture, I invite the parties to just give us their perspective. If it's agreeable with the parties, we can start with the responding party, requesting party, and then move to the responding party. But if it's agreeable with you.
We'd love to start.
Okay.
Is it okay, Henry?
Yes, it is.
Okay, sure thing. Thank you very much, Esther and Rebecca, for agreeing to mediate this session, and also thank you for being our GPS for this session. Now, to our counterparts at Equatoriana, RenPower, Henry and Julia, what a pleasure it is to see you once more. Now, I'm generally grateful that everyone was able to be here, despite it being in the afternoon and having the schedules at hand. Just as Esther has stated or talked about Chimamanda, where she notes that there is need to get both sides of the stories. Allow me just to piggyback off of that. Now, Chimamanda also notes that stories can be used to dispossess and malign, but stories can also be used to empower and humanize, something that I hope we will be able to do throughout this session, together with Henry and Julia. Now, just as I stated earlier, I am the Chief Executive Officer of GreenHydro PLC, and GreenHydro PLC is a medium-sized engineering company that deals in the field of green hydrogen. Now, recently we developed a patent-protected proton exchange membrane electrolysis system that aids in the making or in the manufacturing of green hydrogen. With this, we wanted it to be something that can be used worldwide, and we wanted it to be a reference project. So once ERP put forth their call for bids, we entered into the bidding process and we merged as the two final bidders. That meant that we'll be able to get into a round of negotiations with ERP. Now, Henry can attest to this, that on their side they had Johanna Rita as the main negotiator, and on our side we had Mr. Damon as our main negotiator. Now, during these negotiations, it was clear that there was need for 4 key elements for the project that was at hand. These key elements include 1, a turnkey; 2, the maintenance of that same turnkey; 3, the training services of the turnkey; and 4, an extension option for the said turnkey. Now, if we were to delve into the pricing, Rebecca and Esther, Henry and Julia, the pricing cumulatively came to 445 million. This was after we negotiated with ERP for reducing the price of the turnkey from 300 million to 285 million. Now, this was in accordance, or it was in agreement with ERP to waiver their right to terminate the contract for convenience, and at the same time, we included a best endeavors clause. So come 17th July 2023, we signed this purchase and service agreement. Now, with this agreement, there were key contractual milestones that needed to be met, and the key first milestone was on the submission of the plans. Now, we submitted the plans 28 days later than the due date, the due date was 1st of February 2024. Now, immediately after submitting these plans, we received a termination letter. This became a shock to us as GreenHydro PLC, because this meant that all our blood, sweat, and tears that had been put to this project and its realization have gone down the drain. Joe can attest to this, but I refer to this reference project as my baby. So if I can see all these efforts that I'm making to further the future of my baby going down the drain, it didn't sit well, or sit right, rather, with GreenHydro PLC. On 25th of May, we also received a without prejudice offer to reinstate the contract, if I might say, which we saw was a pretext to just get the project at a lower price. And apart from that, we have also had issues with our main negotiator, just as I've stated, Mr. Damon. He was held at Equatoriana, and we see this holding of him and investigations that happened can be traced back to Henry Lacroix, something that we aim to see through, to see the reasons behind it. And as a company at GreenHydro PLC trying to bridge into the field of sustainable energy, our reputation is at stake. So having a contract being terminated as soon as it is started doesn't put the right picture for GreenHydro PLC. We are all here today at this mediation table to ensure that we find a way forward. So we like to bridge the gap between us. And just like Esther, you have stated, we need to work together in order to agree. Henry, we have a history, but you can also have a future moving forward. Moving on, I'll just hand it over to George just to get into the nitty-gritties of the legalities moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of everyone in this room, from our mediators, Rebecca and Esther, to the team in RenPower, Henry and Julia, and also to my client, Paul. I'm glad that we could all make it to this session today. So as I had stated, my name is Joseph, and I am the in-house counsel for GreenHydro. My role in this session is to translate the vision and the passion of GreenHydro into the legal and commercial realities that need to be addressed in this mediation session. And also, I think Julia will agree with me that we are here in this mediation session pursuant to the purchase and service agreement signed between GreenHydro and RenPower that actually wisely mandates for mediation as a step in case of any dispute arising between GreenHydro and RenPower in line with this contract. And also, considering, or despite the fact that GreenHydro actually has a strong case of specific performance in arbitration, I have strongly advised my client of the benefits and the opportunities that this mediation session has for GreenHydro and even for RenPower. And my client is willing to reach collaborative solutions rather than adversarial ones that arbitration would otherwise have offered. Now, allow me to highlight the interests of my client in this mediation session. So the first thing that my client would like to address is contract. So we can put the contract as an umbrella term. And under the contract, we have the termination of the contract. 2, we have the contract price. 3, we have the timelines for the performance of the contract. And then under the contract, we also have communication between GreenHydro and RenPower moving forward in case the contract is reinstated. And also, there's a relationship between GreenHydro and RenPower moving forward. And lastly, is a reputation of GreenHydro, considering the fact that this project has actually gained a lot of media traction. So just like the way Esther and Paul have talked about stories, allow me to also quote the wise words of Chinua Achebe. Chinua Achebe says that unless the lion has a historian, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. The story of this project has long been told as a story of delays and politics and disappointment. But today, this mediation session offers an opportunity to retell this story, focusing on the future of both companies towards the restoration of trust and respect moving forward. I'd like to encourage RenPower and Mr. Henry, just like I've encouraged my client, to just, instead of just speaking, to also consider listening so that both the two companies can move forward to mutually acceptable solutions. I look forward to an amazing session.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul and Mr. Joseph, for that comprehensive opening statement. I would love to briefly summarize what you have said so that we know we are at par. You have said that on the 17th of July, 2023, you entered a purchase and service agreement with Mr. Henry, and after submitting the plan, just immediately after submitting, the contract was terminated, and this was very devastating for your company. And you have also talked about Mr. Damon, who was arrested, and you would really love to discuss that issue with Mr. Henry here. And your council has gone ahead to highlight what your interests are and the interests of GreenHydro PLC. You have talked about the contract, and under the contract, you want to talk about the termination, you want to talk about the price, you want to talk about the timelines for the performance. You also want to talk about the communication with regards to both companies. And secondly, you want to talk about the relationship and the reputation of the company. Does that clearly reflect your position?
It does. Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that the relationship part came up. This is the very core foundation of mediation. I'm glad that you are amenable to reaching an agreement. Without further ado, I would invite you, Mr. Henry, please give us your side of the story. You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Rebecca, and thank you to Mr. Paul and Mr. Joseph for inviting us here. I am glad we both have a vision of achieving, or rather moving to our forward, looking for a forward solution. As Kwame says, we should neither look east or west, but rather we should face forward. So that being said, this project began with high hopes for us too, as RenPower. We got into a purchase and service agreement with GreenHydro on the 13th of July 2023. And this was a promise for innovation and international recognition for both parties, I do believe. We awarded the tender to GreenHydro after a very competitive tender process, and we expected that the project will be delivered within very ambitious timeframes. That is, the project needed to be operational by 1st of January 2026. But you will notice that by early of January 2024, the GreenHydro failed to deliver the final plans of the project, yet we had agreed in the purchase and service agreement that the delivery of the final plans of the project will be made on 1st of February 2024. So this lateness signaled risk on our end, and this project was already under a lot of financial and political scrutiny on our end. As you know, for Equatoriana, we did our general elections by the end of 2023, and after the elections, there was a change in the administration in the Ministry of Energy. Initially, the Ministry of Energy was led by Mr. Positive. I'm sure you're aware of that, Mr. Paul. But currently, it's being led by Ms. Vent. And if you look at Ms. Vent's focus, her main focus is on affordable renewable energy, unlike Mr. Positive's focus on green hydrogen. So this change in the administration, or rather this change in strategies in terms of the Ministry of Energy, placed us as RenPower at a really difficult position, because on one hand, we had this contract with GreenHydro, which had to be fulfilled, but on the other hand, we had new government priorities with new policies. So consequently, we decided to issue a notice of termination on the 29th of February 2024, and we've made it clear since then that we are no longer willing to proceed with the contract as it is, because it no longer reflects our expectations financially and also in terms of its structure. So, and this is not because we have any bad faith with GreenHydro, but rather it's because as a state-owned company, we are accountable not only to our institution itself, but also to our citizens and to our government. So today I am here ready to look for forwards to reshape this contract so that it can reflect our economic realities as Equatoriana, and also that the contract can also meet the current, can align with the government policies. Because if we don't do so, we are at a risk of delivering a project that is, one, financially unstable to our country, and also two, that is politically unstable because it won't be in support of the people that are currently running our government. So in the spirit of Ubuntu, then I am here ready to work and find mutual solutions to ensure that we find viable solutions to enforce, or rather to reshape the contract as it is, so that it can reflect our realities as a country. I will then invite my counsel, Ms. Julia, to outline our interests as Equatoriana.
Thank you for that, Lakor, and good afternoon once again. So as stated earlier, my name is Julia Clara, counsel for Equatoriana RenPower, led by a very able CEO, Lakor over here. As we start, I want to state that it's a really great privilege to be here today. I know mediation is never an easy feat. Mediation takes time, and time is not really something the CEOs really have in most of the scenarios. So with that in mind, I want to take time to thank you to GreenHydro PLC, that is Mr. Paul and Joe, for requesting this mediation session. And to our very able mediators, Esther and Rebecca, we are really grateful for you agreeing to mediate this session for us. Thank you so much for taking your time. So with that in mind, I was actually telling Lakor over here that looking at this table, this round table, actually gives me a sense of deja vu, in the sense that I'm reminded of the great old stories, the old movies of the infamous King Arthur's round table. So as the name says, round, it was basically a round table where people met as equals, sometimes to argue, but in most of the scenarios, to resolve their issues, to charter the way forward, to resolve their disputes. So the fact that today GreenHydro, Mr. Paul and Joe are present here today together with my client shows that there's a shared commitment to ensuring that they resolve this dispute and arrive at an amicable solution. So with that in mind, I would like to lay out the interest of my client. So my client wants, one, to restructure the contract so that the needs of the public and the government policy are protected. Secondly, and lastly, my client wants to maintain a good business relationship with GreenHydro, because we understand that this won't be the only project that Equatoriana and GreenHydro will engage in. So we believe that that reputation and that relationship needs to be protected at all costs. So as I conclude, I want to state that at the heart of this matter is a project that was to be worth 285 million. That is public money. That shows a public commitment by a public entity to its public to ensure that a project will be delivered to them. And this situation, just like a coin, has two scenarios. On one side, my clients could have easily continued with the arbitration. And I think Joe can agree that arbitration is quite lengthy and quite expensive. So, and as I've said, as a coin has two sides. The other side of this scenario will go in already with a local company that aligns with the government policy and the financial situation of Equatoriana. But however, I think my client really did follow my advice of going the mediation way, and he believes that a mediated outcome is far more better than an imposed solution onto Equatoriana and GreenHydro. And that's why my client is here today, to try and achieve an amicable settlement that is workable and achievable for both parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henry and Julia. I love your collaborative spirit and your shared commitment to getting to an amicable solution. Now, from what I'm hearing from you is that you enjoyed, or rather you had a contractual agreement with GreenHydro, and this was a purchase and service agreement. And this came into force in 13 July 2023, and this came via a tender, And maybe this contract envisioned that the timelines would be met 1st January 2026. But from what I'm hearing from you, this was not the case. And they failed to meet the first, or rather submit the final plans. And they submitted them 28 days. So that was on February 28th, yes? And due to this led you then to terminate the contract. And apart from this delay, you've also pointed out to the government shift that has happened in Equatoriana. And since you're a parastatal, you're not only accountable to your company, but you're also accountable to the people and the government. And this then also added to the termination. Yes? Okay. So I've gotten two major interests from you. So number one, you seek to restructure the contract so that it can reflect the economic realities and align with the government policies. Secondly, you wish to maintain a good relationship with GreenHydro. Have I missed anything, or have I reframed maybe something that you had not said?
You have simply framed it perfectly.
Okay, thank you for that confirmation. Now I see that you indeed have some common interests and some diverging interests. So both of you seek to speak on the contract, and this is in terms of restructuring it. From what I've gathered from you, you seek to also speak about the termination, contract price, and the timelines. And the other common interest is that you both want to preserve this relationship. Maybe the two that are not with you is communication and reputation. So since this is a party-oriented process, I would invite the parties to set agendas and, set it to reflect your priorities. And even as you set these agendas, Well, I will also invite the parties to use or employ the SMART technique. Make sure that they're specific, make sure that they're measurable, they're achievable, they are realistic, and they are time-bound. And this will also pour into the exploration stage. So maybe you can guide us on how you want the agendas to be set.
Okay, thank you very much, Esther, and Rebecca as well. So we would like to begin with the discussion on the contract. Now, under the contract, we'll discuss three main elements. One is the reasons for termination and the justifications. 2, we need to discuss about the contract price. 3, the suitable timelines that are agreeable to both ERP and GreenHydro PLC. And then 2, we can have the discussion on reputation, followed by communication, and lastly, relationship. The reason why I have termed or want the first contract to be on the discussion of the contract is because that's the key in our discussion today, and also to talk about the destruction of the contract, just like Henry wanted. So I'll just love to hear what Henry has to say about it.
Does the reputation come before the communication?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am agreeable to that order since the contract is the vital issue today. So that order works for me.
Thank you so much. So we have agreed we are going to talk about the contract, and under the contract we'll talk about the termination, the price, and the timelines for the performance that align with the companies for GreenHydro and also for Equatoriana. And after that, we'll talk about the reputation, the communication, and the relationship. Is that in order, Mr.?
It is.
Thank you. Is that in order for you, Mr. Henry?
Yes, it is, Ms. Rebecca.
Okay. So with that being said, we are going to begin with the contract, and we'll start with the termination. So as we go into the exploration stage, this is where, as I earlier said, we'll generate solutions, and I'll encourage us to go in this session with an open mind, ready to negotiate and to arrive at solution. Let us avoid blame game. Let us be open to each other. And I would love to encourage us by a quote from John Kennedy. He said that let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us fear never to negotiate. So let us embrace this process. And this is Mr. Paul. This is not Mr. Paul versus Mr. Henry. This is both of us versus the conflict. So with that being said, I'll invite Mr. Paul. Will you be okay? Will you be okay to begin?
Sure.
Is that okay with you?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Paul.
Thank you very much. Now, in the spirit of wanting to reinstate this contract moving forward, we'll just like to understand majorly on the reasons behind the termination of the contract. In the letter that you sent to us, you cited two main reasons. One, the 28-day delay, and also the policy shift that has affected this contract today. Maybe just to get a little bit of clarification, was the 28-day delay a fundamental breach of our contract?
Thank you, Mr. Henry. I just want to confirm that the 28-day delay was the fundamental reason that warrants the breach of a contract on our end. This is because we are a state-owned company, and as a state-owned company, you know that we are accountable to a lot of people, most especially to our citizens. So if you're not even able to deliver final plans by the mere agreed dates, how are we going to know that you will be able to deliver the final project within the very ambitious timeframes, because this project needs to be operational by 1st of January 2026. So if you're not even able to, you're not credible enough to deliver the plans by the agreeable dates, how are we going to know that you are accountable enough to deliver the project within the timeframes that we had agreed on?
With the inclusion of the best endeavors clause when we were negotiating, it seems that the termination followed suit because it was not convenient for Equatoriana RenPower. You have stated that the 28-day delay did actually prove to be a fundamental breach of the contract, but in the interest of having the best endeavors clause, we as GreenHydro PLC at this moment, just like to give you the reason behind the 28-day delay. Now, we had the shift from P to G to green ammonia in effect at that time, the same time period. So with that happening, there was a 28-day delay that resulted to this. Moreover, I know I'm not well suited in this area, but we had an agreement on what will happen or what will make something constitute a fundamental breach. Joe, I'll let you get into it.
Okay, so this issue of fundamental breach. So what my client would really like to understand is how badly did this 28-day delay affect you, that you had to terminate the contract immediately after the plans were submitted on 28th? And considering between this milestone and the next milestone, the submission of the plan was supposed to be to enable RenPower to assess these plans so that GreenHydro can move to the next plan. So the period between this first milestone and the next milestone was 4 months. So the understanding of my client is that 28 days out of 4 months should really not be much. So the question is, how badly did it affect you that you had to terminate the contract immediately after the plans were submitted? And is it true that this termination was just a mere pretext for the termination for convenience?
Thank you, Miss Julia, for that. Mr. Joseph, my apologies for that. I'll just want to state that, as you know, the shift in government administration, that is Ms. Ven's focus, is mostly on affordable energy. And we've been experiencing a lot of financial pressure on her end. So if the project that we had agreed on, that you're supposed to deliver the final plans within the 1st of February 2024, and you fail to do so, and you know that this project is already under a lot of political scrutiny from our minister, Ms. Vent. So this reason then will make us as a company to terminate the contract, because if we are not able to deliver these plans, or rather you're not even able to deliver the plans within the frames that we have agreed on, it is putting a lot of pressure on our end, because Ms. Vent already is not agreeable to the prices that we have agreed on in this contract. So considering the addition of the issue of lateness, it is now adding a lot of pressure on our end. So now this then warrants the reason as to why, as an entity, because you cannot deliver the project within the agreed time, then we can choose to terminate the contract if you're not willing to work, or rather operate within the timeframes that we have agreed on.
Maybe before they respond, they had asked, or rather they had stated something about the best endeavors clause. What does that mean to you, or for clarity?
Oh, thank you for that, Miss Esther. For the best endeavors clause, yes, we had agreed to it, and we agreed that we are going to offer our support. And in terms of support, the construction site, we've made it ready. Everything is in place. The permits were also ready, but all the permits were to be issued on the prerequisite that you're supposed to deliver the final plan. So we cannot issue the permits to you if you've not delivered the project, or rather the final plans of the project, to us. So for the best endeavors clause, as an entity, I feel like we've addressed, or rather we are okay with it, because we've provided our support in terms the construction sites are ready and everything is ready. It's just that for Green Hydrogen, they failed to deliver the plans within the agreed time. So we cannot issue the other things that are supposed to be issued to ensure the continuation of the project if they're not able to deliver that final plans of the project.
Okay, so from what I'm gathering, there was a heavy influence of the government when it came to terminating the contracts. And we understand that as GreenHydro PLC. Maybe moving forward, as also we had the delay on our end because of the change from P2G to green ammonia. Now, we would like to suggest as GreenHydro PLC moving forward, as we are restructuring the contract, Henry, that we provide a sort of mechanism whereby we can be able to communicate to you when such matters arise. Because also from consultations with my engineers, as much as the 28-day delay can be attributable to us, it doesn't affect the fruition or the realization of the project by January 1st, 2026. So we will suggest that we have a mechanism whereby we are able to discuss or inform Equatoriana RenPower moving forward. Maybe I could just get your insight on the same.
I am agreeable to that, but I'd also like to listen to what are those mechanisms that you're proposing.
Esther and Rebecca, this might be a cross-cutting issue on the agenda, noting that I had stated that we agreed with Henry that we want to discuss on communication. So if it's agreeable with Henry, maybe we can just delve into that a minute, because the mechanism itself deals with communication aspect. Is it okay with you, Henry?
It is.
Sure thing. So as GreenHydro PLC, we are suggesting to have a clear-cut way of communicating to ERP when there are such issues. So what we are suggesting is we have one secure email where we are able to discuss or be able to get into communication with the lead people in this project when it comes to your side as Equatoriana RenPower. So it will be a streamline of communication between the main people at the projects from GreenHydro PLC and also with Equatoriana RenPower, so that when an issue of the sort happens, we're able to discuss this with you before it becomes something major in the future.
Before Mr. Henry, you respond, allow me to interrupt a little bit. So I see we have gotten to the issue of communication, which was of interest to you. But initially we were talking about the termination of the contract and was it justifiable. I just want to confirm that that both parties are satisfied with the first issue on termination. Have you gotten all the answers you sought on termination?
We have gotten the clarification that we needed.
Thank you. What about you?
Yes.
Okay. That is nice. We're making progress. So we have now gone to the communication part, which we had said will form the third interest on the agenda. But it is all right since it touches on the aspect of the contract. And Mr. Paul, you have suggested a clear, you develop a secure email with which you could communicate with Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry, what is your response to that?
Perhaps I can have a minute with my counsel to discuss on the mechanism they proposed.
Sure.
I'll invite my counsel to give our feedback on that issue.
Okay, thank you for that, Lakor. And yeah, my client is agreeable to having a secure email. And while at it, we will also request to have a Notion template, a Notion workflow template. I believe I'll get in touch with Joe on that template. So on that template, we want everyone, all the CEOs and the engineers to be involved in it, in the sense that they will be able to update the CEOs on the progress of each milestone, of each phase of the project, so that they can be on the loop. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Julia, for that clarification. You have suggested, you're amenable to what Mr. Paul has suggested on a secure email?
Yes, we are agreeable to the proposal of the email, but we are also going to add the Notion templates.
Okay. Mr. Paul, what do you have to say with regards to that?
We are agreeable to having the Notion template in place, as it's going to be specific in the sense that who can access this email. The CEOs and the engineers can access it, so it will not be privy to any sort of interactions from other people at the company. So I'm agreeable to that.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that we are making progress. So we are done with the issue on termination, and we have also dealt with communication, which was our third issue. Are we okay with that, Mr. Paul?
Yeah, we majorly wanted to, I wouldn't say we have closed off on the issue of communication, because it might as well cross-cut in another area of the contract. So maybe we can't just term it as closed off. But on the issue of termination, we are good to go.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Henry?
Yeah, we are comfortable.
So we have agreed on the issue of termination. So next we will talk about the price. This is an issue that Mr. Henry, you had enumerated. Would you love to be the first to take the stage?
Thank you, Ms. Rebecca. As I had initially stated, the shift in the administration in the Ministry of Energy, which is currently being led by Ms. Fent, and her focus is on affordable, renewable energy. Mr. Positive's focus was on green hydrogen, basically green hydrogen, but Ms. Vent's focus is on affordable, renewable energy. Once she did the revision of the purchase and service agreements that we have currently, she saw that the green hydrogen that is going to be produced will be operating at a fairly expensive level than the other renewable energies in the market, like solar and wind. So that is why she stated clearly that she's no longer willing to continue with this contract as it is, unless we restructure the contract in that it can meet our economic realities, so that the green hydrogen that is going to be produced can be operating at a fairly competitive level with the other renewable energies in the market. That is why we made the proposal, or rather in the without prejudice offer that we made to you on the 25th of May 2024. We clearly stated that we want a 15% price reduction from the initially agreed price of 285 million, and also we want a performance guarantee of 10%. Yeah.
Asking for a further 15% price reduction?
Yes.
On top of the 5?
Yeah, we are asking for 15% price reduction from the initially agreed 285 million.
And maybe just to get the exact figure, what will that look like?
Perhaps let me consult with my counsel.
Okay.
Because she's more versed with numbers.
Okay, thank you for that, Lakor. So with a further 15% price reduction, that will go down to 242.25 million euros from 285. 242.25 million euros.
Maybe if I can get some enlightenment, where does the 10% guarantee come from?
The 10% performance guarantee is rather a financial security on our end, in that, for example, the projects that are the problem that you're experiencing, the problem of delay, so that in case we face any other problem or other challenges in this contract, there will be a remedy, or rather a financial recourse by the performance guarantee.
And maybe just to clarify again, this 10% is it 10% of the 285, 2% of the 242?
10% from the price that you're going to agree on today.
Oh, okay.
So thank you very much for that, Henry. Now I'll just like to show you where I'm coming from as GreenHydro PLC. During our negotiations, we had started off with having the turnkey going for 300 million. And we gave you a 5% discount. And initially with that 300 million, we were doing it at a cost-only basis, meaning there was no profit margin whatsoever included. So even with a further 5% price reduction, that meant you're even going even further into our pockets. So even when you're giving us this 15% price reduction of having it being reduced to 242.25 million, it still is a lot for us from GreenHydro PLC, because you're already digging into our pockets. This means you're going further into our pockets. Remember, we have contracted even voltage transformers, so we also have obligations to the other contractors. And if we are going back to our pockets, this will mean that you're not having any sort of profit margins whatsoever, as much as you want this project to be a reference project. So maybe we can just settle on the initial price that we had at hand instead of having the 15% price reduction.
The current price as it is no longer works for us as Equatoriana RenPower, because as I had stated, that price means that the green hydrogen that you're going to be producing will be operating at a fairly expensive level. So that price is no longer workable for us as RenPower based on the Ministry of Energy that we have currently. However, we are willing to work with a price that ranges between 10 to 15%.
I'm trying to get where you're coming from. I am as a fellow CEO, Henry. But then I also have to remember the work that my employees have put into the realization of this project. So maybe to just give a counter offer to that, we'll suggest having a 7% price reduction or a discount when it comes to that. So that will mean 7% of it. Maybe Esther and Rebecca, you can help us in tabulating that. But 7%, that's our counter offer.
The 285?
Yeah, of the 285 million.
Allow me to use my phone just to calculate that.
Sure thing.
Yes, maybe respond to the counter offer.
Perhaps my counsel can give us the figures, the technicalities of how the 7% will look like, because she has it here.
Okay, if we go with the 7% price reduction, it will go down to 265.0.5 million. 265.05 million, which is not really workable for Equatoriana RenPower.
And I can see, since we are not meeting, our minds are not meeting, or rather, I can propose we do a caucus. Is that possible?
Yes, that is very okay. Mr. Paul, you can step out for a little bit. It will not take more than 5 minutes. We will call you back in.
Okay.
Welcome to this private session. I would love to first reiterate on the confidentiality nature. I would love to reiterate on the confidentiality nature of this session. It is a very private session. Whatever you say will only remain with us here unless you give us full authority to disclose the same. Would you love to start by telling us why you called for this session?
Okay, I believe the purpose of the caucus it's to show you that the 15% price reduction to the 7% that they are proposing is not really workable for Equatoriana. Remember, we are a government entity, or rather, Equatoriana RenPower is a government entity answerable to the government and the people. Minister Vent is breathing fire on my client's neck. She has even redirected the funds to green steel energy production. So you can see it's a different company. Yeah. So my client is, however, ready to do a 10% price reduction. So that will be 256.5 million. And on the performance guarantee, we are willing to lower from 10% to 5%.
So this 256 is a 10%? It's a 10% price reduction?
Yes.
And, you know, I've heard that you don't want to move beyond 10%. You're just playing between 10 to 15%. May I know the reason, apart from is there any other financial implications apart from Ms. Vent breathing fire down your neck?
Ms. Vent will not proceed with the contract if we go to a price below 10%. So that is why we are pushing for a price between 10 to 15%, because we want to ensure that this project can be realized.
And in the event they refuse to go beyond 10% and they stick to 7%, what will you do in such a scenario?
I think we will terminate the contract and proceed with green steel.
Okay. You want to add something, maybe question?
Mr. Henry, I see your frustration and I can only imagine the pressure from the political sector of your country. So you have, just to be clear, you can only operate between 10 to 15%, and right now you're proposing a price of 256.5 million. Yes. Would you love to, is there anything you want us to reveal to the other?
Yes,
side?
you can do you can reveal to them that we are willing to operate with 10% on the condition. Yeah, we are willing to operate with 10% and also reduce the performance guarantee from 10 to 5%, because that will also be fair on their end.
Should we just say 10% or 10 to 15%?
10.
Okay.
10.
Maybe a follow-up question. What about the issue with green steel? Would you like us to inform them on the issue of green steel?
No.
Okay. I think we can call them back.
Welcome back, Mr. Paul and Mr. Joseph. I'm sure you've had a good time out there. Fresh air, we have a very serene environment here. So we've had a very constructive conversation with Mr. Henry and Ms. Julia Fast Track, and they have put forward their offer in relation to what you had suggested. They have said that their offer is 256.5 million euros, and they cannot go beyond a 10% price.
In addition to that, they also want to, you see the performance guarantee, the 10%, they're willing to take it down a notch to 5%. Yeah. So,
Okay, so just to make sure I've gotten you right, they want the pricing to go down to 10%, which will mean it's going to be 256.5 million. And then the performance guarantee has been lowered from 10% to 5%. Now, is it 5% of the 285 still?
5% of the 256.
Which amounts to what?
Perhaps my counsel can do the math.
Sure thing.
Okay, thank you for that, Lacor. So if we get it down to 5%, 5% will be 12.8 million.
Said 28 million? You have stated 28 million?
12.8 million.
Okay, 12.8. Okay, thank you very much for that, Henry and Julia. So it's 256.5 million for the 10% discount, and for the 5% performance guarantee, it's 12.8 million. Now, I can see that you're trying to hear us and see where we're coming from as GreenHydro PLC, and maybe if you can add something to that as well. we will be agreeable to this offer with a condition that after the realization of the project, which is in 2026, we will be able to get into a profit-sharing regime with Equatoriana RenPower. Now, just allow me to get into the intricacies of this profit-sharing regime. Now, this also might get into the timelines aspect of it, Esther and Rebecca. And with this profit sharing, as soon as the project is up and running and it's getting profits, we'll be able to get a 5% profits out of the profits that you're making annually for the next 3 years.
So that is from 2026 to 2029?
On the timelines bit, I believe we would like to still consult that with Henry, because we do not have we haven't discussed yet on the timelines, and we're not yet sure when the project itself will start making profits. So when it comes to that profit-making stage, we are asking for a 5% profit for the next 3 years.
Thank you.
Perhaps instead of doing 3 years, we can reduce the time frame to 1.5.
Maybe I could give a rationale why the 3 years. So we are already getting sunken costs because of the termination of the project that needs to be addressed by us, GreenHydro PLC. So 1.5 years will not be able to help us recuperate from the sunken costs that you already have, because you are already dealing with termination sunken costs. We have the issue with Mr. Damon. He has his own legal costs. So in order to cater for all the costs that have led us or have made us to be in a difficult position because of the termination, that's why we are stating the 3%. I hope you are able to get where I'm coming from, Henry, and that you'll be amenable to it.
I hear you, Mr. Paul. We are agreeable to doing the 3 years. Then we can reduce it from 5 to 4. 5, we do 4% with the 3 years time frame.
To get you correctly, you are amenable to the suggestion he has put forward, but you want to do the 4%, but the timeline should be 3 years.
Yeah, the timelines will still remain to be 3, but we will reduce it from 5 to 4.
Okay. Mr. Paul, yes.
Maybe I'll just let Joe get in the loop here because of the mathematics. Joe?
So the understanding is that you're suggesting 4% profit sharing for the next 3 years as a counter offer to the 5% profit sharing for the next 3 years, right? So
just to make sure we are on the right page with everyone, why, just to get clarity, why 4, not the 5?
My counsel will address more on that.
Okay, thank you for that, Lacor. Or rather, my client is doing the 4% because we understand that you've incurred losses, but at the same time, Equatoriana RenPower has also incurred losses. So 5% will be quite a stretch for Equatoriana. Thank you.
So just to make sure this is what the offer entails, the discount is 10% discount, 5% performance guarantee, and a 4% on the profits for the next 3 years. Is that it?
Yes, we are agreeable to those terms.
So are we? Maybe Esther and Rebecca can just rephrase it to ensure you're all on the same page.
Thank you so much. So the parties have agreed that you will reduce the contract price from 285 million euros to 256.5 million euros. That is a 10% decrease. You've also agreed that there will be a 5% decrease on the performance guarantee from the initial 10%, and this is 12.8 million euros. And you've also agreed that after the realization of the project in 2026, you will then begin a profit-sharing regime whereby you'll be sharing 4% annually for 3 years. Is that what you've decided on?
Yes.
Yes, it is, Esther. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that agreement. Congratulations. This is, the second milestone after you've agreed on communication. Now, at least you've also agreed on the contract price. And now, at this juncture, we can now move to the timelines. Or have they already been established?
Now, since we brought up the issue on the timelines, we wanted to look into when is the next date that you're going to submit the plans in totality, because the plans lacked the e-ammonia plans, and we also had the key construction milestones. Are they still going to be the same ones that you set in place? Are we moving them forward? So that's what I wanted us to discuss when it comes to timelines. So maybe on the first part of it, as GreenHydro PLC, we are suggesting that in the next 3 weeks from this date, we'll be able to supply Equatoriana RenPower with the plans of the e-ammonia module, so that you can be able to complete in totality the submissions of the plan to ensure the realization of the projects. Maybe I can get a response from Henry on the same. In the next 3 weeks.
We are okay with a 3 weeks extension for the submission of the final plans, but on our condition that you will continue, or rather the contract will still be delivered within the 1st of January 2026.
Sure thing. From the consultations that you have had with my engineers, we were able to sit down and discuss before coming to this mediation session. Now, it also informed the decision on why 3 weeks on the submissions of the e-ammonia module plans. And we thought the 3 weeks will be sufficient enough, and also will be able to meet the realization of the project from 1st January 2026.
So,
Henry, I was just waiting for the response.
Okay. So Mr. Paul has stated his reasons for the 3 weeks. He has said that after the consultation with the engineers, that is the appropriate timelines that they can have the ammonia to be delivered. What do you say about that?
I am agreeable to those terms. However, I would also like to seek clarification. With the ammonia option, proceed with green ammonia from Danubia?
Yes, it will. We concluded our negotiations, and with that, maybe just to emphasize on one of the key things that we entered or wanted out of the contract, or you wanted rather, on the local content requirements. Now, we had informed you that you'll be able to reach the 25%, and maybe just to show you our willingness to this project, once green ammonia in Danubia is able to get into the reach of the global bids worldwide, the next point or the next location will be here, will be not here rather, will be in Equatoriana, which means it will just further the local content. So we are moving forward with green ammonia.
That clarification being made, then I am comfortable with the final plans of the delivery being made 3 weeks after today, from today.
Maybe.
So we can proceed with 3 weeks from the agreeable timelines of today. That is, but there's a condition that you will ensure the contract will be realized on 1st of January 2026. Is that right?
That's right. And maybe at this juncture, Esther and Rebecca, you can track our progress from your end.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul. So just to confirm, we have agreed that the e-ammonia will be delivered in 3 weeks, and the contract will still be in place. That will be on the 1st January 2026. Is that correct?
I think they're the ones who are supposed to give the response, because they are to assure us if they're going to deliver the project by 1st of January 2026.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so we have made progress. Is there any other thing you would love to discuss on the issue of timelines? Any other aspect to it?
Okay, so the other aspect that I wanted us to discuss is, are we still going to stick to the key contractual milestones and the timelines that were included in the purchase and service agreements?
Yes, we are. We are going to proceed with the agreeable milestones. That is the delivery of the start of the building materials on the active site will still be on the 1st of June 2024. The test run will still be conducted on 1st October 2025, and also the performance and acceptance test will still proceed with 1st of November 2025, and then the realization of the project, that is on 1st of January 2026.
Thank you so much for that. Those are the aspects that we wanted to cover on the timelines. So I believe at this juncture we have been able to discuss the contract itself in totality. And if time allows, we can move to the next item on the agenda, if that's okay with Henry.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we have dealt with the timelines in totality. You are satisfied? And Mr. Henry also satisfied?
Yes, I'm satisfied, Ms. Rebecca.
So with that, we've talked about the timelines, the termination, the price, and what about the communication? Is there an aspect of communication you have not delved into? Because I also take note that it relates to the contract.
I believe that was addressed with a secure email and the Notion template we suggested.
And maybe just on the communication bit, my counsel had consulted with me on a key issue on the communication bit of the Notion template that I think we had not addressed.
Okay, so just as Esther had advised that during the exploration stage we should use the SMART method. So in this Notion template and the emails that are supposed to be created, what are the timelines? When do you expect the Notion template to be updated? When is the email going to be formulated? What are the timelines surrounding these communication methods?
Okay, thank you for that, Joe. So when it comes to the email, we expect, or rather, my client expects an update every Friday. See. Yeah, and for the Notion template, since it's quite a lengthy process, my client expects an update after 2 weeks.
So to make sure that I've gotten you correctly, Julia, is that we are going to be updating. And I believe this is not just something that is being done on one end, but it's something that is going to be done by both of us, because communication is like a highway. So every week on Friday, there's the updates. And also we have the Notion templates in 2 weeks.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Maybe Esther and Rebecca can just ensure that we have gotten it in totality.
Okay, so back to the issue of communication, where you had agreed on a secure email. On the secure email, you want a notification every Friday, that we have agreed on. And on the Notion working template, you want it to be updated every 2 weeks. We have both agreed on that. Thank you so much. We are making progress very well. So we have agreed on the contract, the price, the termination, the timelines, and the communication, which we had put it as a different issue. So now we'll talk about the reputation. Who would love to begin?
We love to begin because you're the ones who had suggested it.
Thank you.
So with the issue of reputation, we had Mr. Damon undergoing criminal investigations in Equatoriana. Now, it came to my attention that Mr. Damon had met up with Henry Lacroix, while Henry Lacroix had accused him of fraud through misrepresentations. Now, with that, he entered into a criminal investigations 2 weeks after he informed me of his meeting with Lacroix. So when this came to our attention, it became something that we could not handle, or it wasn't something that could be kept internally in GreenHydro PLC. Because remember, he is undergoing investigations in another territory in Equatoriana. So this came out, and when the wind came out of it about the issue with Mr. Damon, who is someone we're working with. He is the CEO of Volta Transformer. He was our main negotiator. So we have very close ties with Mr. Damon. So our reputation in this aspect has been distorted because why is an employee of GreenHydro PLC undergoing such investigations? And maybe it's worth noting that these investigations were cleared because nothing was found. And also, aside from that aspect of reputation, one day after submitting our plans was also the termination issue. So we are also suffering reputational damages in some way because of the immediate termination. Yes, we've been able to get the justification from ERP that we needed, but I feel the justification that we need at this moment is in regards to the issue with Mr. Damon. So maybe you can enlighten us on the same, Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. I hear your concerns. And I'll just love to start by apologizing for the arrest for Mr. Damon. It was a mistake on our end, and we acknowledge that mistake, and we offer our sincerest apologies to the arrest of Mr. Damon, because after the investigations that followed, it came clear to us that there was no mistake on Mr. Damon's fault, so it was just a mishap on our end. We do sincerely offer our apologies today for that. Do you accept our apologies, Mr. Paul?
I would just like to suggest having a written apology to Mr. Damon himself on the matter. But where I can, I accept your apology, Henry, but it will also come with the inclusion of having a written apology to Mr. Damon himself.
We can do a written apology to Mr. Damon, and since Mr. Damon is someone in the legal profession, we can also offer a public conference, because we understand that as counsels, or rather the reputation is a really crucial thing. So with a public conference apology that we will offer, I think that will cater for all the financial, or rather all the losses that we've caused on our end.
Okay. A moment before I'm able to respond to that, I just want Joe to get into the loop.
Okay, so in addition to the apology or a public conference, would also like to know, because this involvement of Mr. Henry and the prosecution office is what led to this issue with Mr. Damon. So considering the fact that, Henry, you're involved with the prosecution office and such matters have already been proven that they can happen, so what is your assurance that this is not going to happen again and GreenHydro isn't going to find itself in such a position again?
And while he responds, time is of the essence, and I see that we have less than 10 minutes. So maybe are you in a position to respond to that, or?
Perhaps we can carry out this agenda on the issue of reputation, rather the response to a later discussion. Is that agreeable with you, Mr. Paul?
It is, as I don't want to rush anything as important as this.
But so far, are you in agreement that a public apology, a written letter and a public conference on a public apology will be issued?
Yes, we will issue that on our end.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So far, you have made quite good progress. So let me just summarize what has been agreed upon. So first, you have agreed to have a secure email and have a Notion template, which will include the CEOs and the engineers to ensure efficient communication. And this email will be coming every Friday of the week. And the Notion template will also be updated after every 2 weeks. Is that agreeable? Okay. Secondly, we've also agreed to have a price reduction from 285 million euros to 256.5 million euros. And on top of that, you've also agreed to have a 5% performance guarantee from GreenHydro. That will be 12.8 million. And after the realization of the project, you will have a profit sharing, being that you'll be given 4% of your annual earnings in the next 3 years from when the contract is, project is realized rather. And lastly, you've also agreed that the e-ammonia module will be delivered on an extension, or rather after 3 weeks extension to the final plans. And you will also agree that you will stick to the original contractual timelines. Have I missed anything out regarding what you've agreed upon?
No, you haven't.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
So with me is a partial mediation agreement. Since we've not deliberated on all the aspects, or rather all the interest in the agenda, maybe you can go through it and see whether what is there is actually what you have agreed upon. And this will be binding because you've agreed on it. And then when we reschedule, or rather you reschedule another mediation session, you'll deliberate on the other remaining interest. And for that matter, when will be the next convenient date, time, and venue for the next mediation session?
We'd like to suggest 1 week from now, same time, same venue.
Are we agreeable to those time frames? 1 week from now.
So 1 week from now, same time, same venue.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you so much for reaching these milestones. And maybe at this juncture, I would now like to invite the parties to make their closing remarks. And also, as you make your closing remarks, there's something we do with Rebecca, whereby we ask for feedback from you. You know, this is Customer Service Week, therefore we need to get feedback from you on how the session went, so that we can improve on our services the next time we meet. So we can start with the requesting party and then proceed to the responding party, if that's agreeable.
It is.
Okay, thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Esther and Rebecca. This feels like a heavy burden has been lifted off my shoulders. And thank you, Henry, for that. And also thank you, Julia. Just as you had noted earlier, a saying by Kwame Henry, that we should neither look east or west, but we need to look forward. And today we have been able to look forward to the matters that have brought us to this discussion. So I'm really grateful for that. And in terms of feedback, Esther and Rebecca, I have loved it. I have loved the hospitality that you have granted us here in Danubia, because us, we have come all the way from Mediterranean, and we are really enjoying the time that we have had during this mediation session. I'll now hand it over to Joe.
Thank you so much, Paul. First of all, I'd like to thank the mediators for actually being the party's GPS and walking stick throughout this session. I'm really glad that the two companies were able to sit down and talk about whatever the relationship they have and be able to focus on the future. I have loved the session, Esther and Rebecca, and again, thank you so much. Thank you, Henry and Julia, for actually being here and also for listening, just like I had stated when I began, not only to speak out, but also to listen. So thank you for giving Paul and I a listening ear. I wish all of you an amazing day ahead.
Thank you for that, Mr. Joseph, and thank you to Miss Esther and Miss Rebecca for mediating this session. This is my first mediation session, and I was a bit skeptical about it because I'm used to the litigation way of solving disputes, but I'm glad with how things have turned out with this mediation session, and I'll even propose to my fellow business partners to pursue mediation over litigation. To Mr. Paul and Mr. Joseph, thank you for inviting us here. I'm glad we've been able to address most of our agendas, especially with the contract issue. That was the vital issue to both of us, I believe. So I am really glad that we've been able to solve that issue, and I'm sure Ms. Vent will be glad with the outcomes of this mediation session. With that being said, I'll then invite my counsel, Ms. Julie, to also give her closing statements.
Thank you so much, Lakor, for that. I want to really say it was a really nice session to our mediators, Esther and Rebecca. you are really good, and we didn't feel any form of biasness during the session. Your neutrality was maintained through the entire session, and for that we are really grateful. To GreenHydro, Mr. Paul and Joe, I'm really grateful for agreeing to do this with Equatoriana RenPower. We are really happy that we are here today, and it's a privilege to be here today for that matter. So I believe the journey is still on. I can see that solutions will be arrived at with the issue of the contract being resolved, with the issue of the termination and the pricing being solved. We believe that the issue of reputation when it comes to Mr. Diman will be resolved by the next meeting. So yeah, thank you so much for that. And Joe and Mr. Paul, we look forward to having a cup of coffee with you within the week. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Julia Fastrack. Just to confirm, Mr. Paul, do you accept the invitation for a cup of coffee?
I would love to have coffee with Henry and Julia.
Thank you so much. So I would also love to appreciate you so much for making the time to be at this mediation table, for choosing us, and also for being very open-minded during this session, for sticking to all the ground rules, the principles, and everything that we had agreed on. We had agreed earlier on, and this reminds me of a favorite quote of mine by Ronald Reagan. He says that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to handle conflict in a peaceful manner. And I can tell us today that we have actually lived up to that. I congratulate us all. And I really, really look forward to the next session. I am so sure that we are going to make even more progress. And I am glad for the progress that we have made, and I'm sure you are satisfied. Mr. Paul, are you satisfied?
I am satisfied.
What about you, Mr. Henry?
I'm also satisfied.
Which is a confirmation to some of the benefits of mediation we highlighted earlier. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for making the time.